Today's podcast is brought to you by Sprizzy. Looking to skyrocket your YouTube channel's growth? Meet Sprizzy, your video's ultimate matchmaker. Their tailored ad campaigns connect your content with viewers who are already looking for videos like yours. With Sprizzy, you're not just getting views, you're gaining subscribers who are genuinely interested in what you create. Are you ready to boost your reach? Visit Sprizzy.com today and let's launch your channel to new heights. Sprizzy, the smarter way to promote your YouTube channel. We should have covered this right after Eyes Wide Shut.
It fits.
It fits.
If the orgy fits.
Anton, I'm not sure if it's a coincidence, but Akiva Goldsman wrote the screenplay to this film. He also wrote Batman and Robin.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
He also won an Oscar for writing the screenplay to A Beautiful Mind, so figure that one out.
Which, really good movie.
Really good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It won Best Picture. It beat Fellowship of the Ring, where Ian McKellen was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for playing Gandalf, which brings us right back to the Da Vinci Code. And this is Why Wasn't It Better? I'm your host, Patrick Darms.
And I'm your co-host, Anton Prost.
We have a return guest joining the podcast, Ben Hill. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back, Ben. Ben, I feel like every time we have you on, you have always a nugget of information for our listeners. Do you have anything you want to share today?
Yes. Well, originally I was going to talk about Mario's brother and but instead I would like to say you can't make moves if the Joy-Con is drifting. So slow down.
Very well said. Very well said. I don't think anyone over the age of 50 knows what a Joy-Con is.
Yes.
But
It's okay.
I'm sure they will understand the sentiment.
Yeah.
It's all about the context and how you apply it.
Yes.
Yeah. Like an orgy.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm glad you brought up the orgy, Anton, because I had completely forgotten, rewatching this movie, that there are flashbacks to Eyes Wide Shut orgies.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And that's the joy of revisiting this film. I really did black it out.
Did it completely catch you off guard where you're like, what's going on with this grainy black and white Zapruder film footage? And you're, it's an orgy.
Yeah, there's a lot that surprises you about that film, or this film. And is it enjoyable?
No.
Is Tom
None of
Hanks'
it.
hair
Not at
real in
all.
it?
Man, I hadn't seen this movie in possibly since it came out in theaters. I'm trying to think, have I seen it since? Maybe once or twice, but been a long, long time. The film that we're covering today is The Da Vinci Code, which was a phenomenon about 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was a real big deal.
It was.
Yeah.
No exaggeration on that,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about. I'll intro this for us. A murder in Paris's Louvre Museum and cryptic clues in some of Leonardo da Vinci's most famous paintings lead to the discovery of a religious mystery. For 2,000 years, a secret society closely guards information that, should it come to light, could rock the very foundations of Christianity. The Da Vinci Code was released on May 19th, 2006 by Columbia Pictures, Imagine Entertainment, Skylark Productions, and the government of Malta? I don't know.
All right. That is just funny. But
Yeah.
go on.
Directed by Ron Howard, screenplay by Akiva Goldsman based on the novel by Dan Brown, starring Tom Hanks, Audrey Tautou, Ian McKellen, Alfred Molina, Paul Bettany, Jean Reno, and Jürgen Prochnow. The budget was $125 million. That is $195 million adjusted for inflation. The box office is staggering. $760 million. That is $1.18 billion adjusted for inflation. Ben, as today's guest, why did you want to talk about the Da Vinci Code?
Well, thank you for inviting me to Thanksgiving. And when we
you're
tried to
quite
watch
welcome.
the movie during Thanksgiving, I passed out 4 times. This was something that we had to talk about, and it was just terrible. So it just, I thought, looking at the cast, you would see a better quality movie. I haven't seen this movie since it was probably on TBS at some point, and I was probably half asleep then, and rewatching it again made me really think we need to talk.
It's almost impossible to explain now if you were explaining this to a kid or someone who just, isn't old enough to remember. This really was a phenomenon, this book. I think, when did the book come out? 2003?
2003.
Okay. It's one of the rare books where almost every single person I knew read it.
Mhm.
It was like a go-to airport novel. The cultural stuff got completely blown out of proportion, but it by the mid 2000s, when this movie was announced, phenomenon really is the right word. And I think we may throw that word around a little lightly, Anton, but this book and this film do fit the bill for it. This wasn't just a best-selling book. It outsold every other book except Harry Potter. It sold 80 million copies, like 80 million copies. Like, just think about that. So the hype for this film was huge. Like, I remember people in school talking about the teaser trailer, which came out a year before the film came out, and all it was basically a reveal of the Mona Lisa. But they got the timing of this right. So the book comes out in 2003. It's a phenomenon, to use that word. They timed this right. The source material was at the peak of its popularity. Tom Hanks headlining it was a huge deal. Ben, you touched on the rest of the cast. It's a bunch of A-listers, like huge names in the cast. Ron Howard was one of the biggest directors in Hollywood at the time. He was just a few years removed from winning Best Picture and Best Director for A Beautiful Mind. So this had just so many big names attached to it. And then it comes out, it gets negative, very negative reviews. But I said the box office numbers, people went to see this thing in droves. I'm just blown away 20 years later by how much money this made. Just some more numbers for you. 224 million on opening weekend. It's easily Ron Howard's most financially successful film. It ended up as the second highest grossing film of 2006. Do either of you know which was first?
No.
2006.
It's a sequel. It's a Disney movie.
Frozen?
It's not animated.
Oh, not animated?
I'm going to have to go with Mary Poppins 5.
Good guess, but no. It is Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest.
Mm,
Yeah.
I was thinking Borat, but
Yeah, either or.
either way, it's a great Disney.
So I saw this in the theater. Did you guys as well?
Oh, of course. I feel like there was no way that like anyone our age wasn't going to miss out on one of the most controversial films of all time, or potentially one of the most controversial films of all time.
I was not allowed.
Oh, because of the
My
controversy?
My mother at the time was very, very, we're going to church and that's like the devil stuff. So it's like, all right, well,
Mhm.
I'm not even going to try to sneak out here. Like, I'll wait. Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
have driven yourself to the theater.
Yeah, probably. It was like right around the corner.
Mhm. No, I mean, I grew up, like, I'm still practicing, but grew up Catholic. And so, yeah, I heard all about this at church, or just around, like, don't go see this film. This book has so many inaccuracies. This is just trash. And for two reasons, I really want to go see this film. One, I was like, well, this sounds like it could be a pretty good film, a lot of controversy around it. Two, I really like Tom Hanks. So I'm still gonna go see this film because I really like Tom Hanks. And all I can say is I remember after seeing the film, I really wanted to just like, go to talk to people at church, be like, hey guys, don't worry, it's good. You have nothing to worry about. This film was very bad.
You're right about the controversy. It wasn't just the hype, it was all that too. The Catholic Church organized protests against it, which is insane to think about now, but
that's a short list of films. The Last Temptation of Christ,
Golden Compass,
that Kevin Smith film,
Dogma.
No, Chasing Amy. No, just kidding.
Oh, right. I think part of the problem with it is that a lot of people seem to genuinely believe the story was based on historical facts, which is nonsense. There was a lot of documentaries made about it. I remember in the lead up to this film, this is back when people still watched the news, there was like nightly news reports about this film. It really had a lot of backlash. And as huge as this film was in 2006, almost 20 years later, this film has no legacy, no legs. I've never heard anybody talk about this film in years.
Well, it wasn't Dan Brown on recording going, we don't deal in historical fiction, we deal in historical fact?
You're joshing, but he sort of did imply that this film was based on fact. I think he was very clever about how he said it, but he didn't definitively say that this was a bunch of nonsense, which of course it is.
Like the centuries old group that was founded hundreds of years ago, but was actually founded in the 1950s.
As a joke?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you, Anton, I was excited for this film because I like Tom Hanks. I like Ron Howard, especially then. He hasn't really done anything interesting in a very long time, but
Yeah.
he was a great director in his day. As someone who's takes their faith seriously as well. The controversy didn't really bother me much. I had read the book, I had enjoyed it, and I was like, yeah, I'll see this film because
Why
why
not?
not? I think by that point I had read the prequel book too, Angels and Demons, which I still think is a pretty good book. I didn't think the movie adaptation was very good, and then I didn't even see the other one, Inferno, that they made a few years later.
Same.
Never saw it.
Angels
'Cause
and
I think-
Demons, the movie was a lot better than this one.
Was it?
Yeah. I watched it again last night. I was like, they both can't be that bad. They both
But,
are.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, is there anything else from around that time that kind of you could compare to this that was so popular and so much hype associated with it, and it's just completely faded from memory?
From 2006?
Just from that era.
I mean, I'd say there's a bunch of films that kind of fit that same description. No one's talking about The Pursuit of Happiness anymore. No one's talking about.
No, but I'm not talking about something like that. Just how much of a cultural phenomenon this book and this movie were. 80 million copies, and then 20 years later, it has no legacy at all.
Yeah, I mean, to prop it up in that sense, totally agree. But what is it? The success is fleeting, and
yeah,
when you put it under a microscope, you can really see that the only reason this thing was popular is because there were no YouTube iceberg theory videos to really go down the rabbit hole.
No, you're right. When did YouTube start? 2005?
It was the mid 2000s, early mid 2000s.
Yeah. With the Juggernaut. What? 2006 was a great year for movies.
It was.
Looking at this again, you got Nacho Libre, Night at the Museum, and actually probably one of my favorite movies of all time, Idiocracy. Casino Royale, yeah. I mean, I was gonna bring that up, but I knew you would. And Talladega Nights.
Idiocracy should have had a wide release. I'm still bummed about that.
It was basically treated like an indie movie, right?
Yeah.
Well, so Da Vinci Code, I have written down it's what you would call a time capsule movie. You can only really explain it by going back in time, which is what we're going to do here. And let's do the production history for this, Anton. I mentioned the novel was published in 2003. It's an instant sensation. The competition for the film rights was fierce. This might have been a record at the time. Dan Brown was paid $6 million for the film rights. That's unreal.
Stephen King was seething.
Yeah. Akiva Goldsman wrote the screenplay. We mentioned his name. Bill Paxton was the first choice to play Robert Langdon, but he had to decline as he was beginning to film the HBO series Big Love. Some of the other actors considered for the part were Ralph Fiennes, Hugh Jackman, Pierce Brosnan, and George Clooney. Russell Crowe was in serious contention for the role, but ultimately Ron Howard decided on his longtime friend, Tom Hanks.
Can you imagine Russell Crowe in this? It would be funny.
More punching.
A lot more punching. You stabbed my best friend. Bah, bah, bah.
Oh, damn cripple.
Shot him. That's
no, he wouldn't have said that. He thought Lee T-Bing was his friend.
Yeah.
Bill Paxton is an interesting consideration. I think he would have done probably a better job.
I mean, I don't know. If the way that Tom Hanks was directed to be this role is hey, play it like this, play it straight.
Oh, I don't think you direct Tom Hanks, buddy.
Yeah.
You just let him go.
Yeah, you let him cook. Does he doesn't technically have a mullet in this movie, right? It's not technically
it's almost there.
It's mullet adjacent.
Yeah, it's close. It's a cousin.
It's definitely a cousin.
Yeah. So for the role of Sophie, Ron Howard wanted Audrey Tautou. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher some French names.
Tautou.
Sure. She was unavailable for an audition. She was also, originally, she felt she was too young to play opposite Tom Hanks. After some convincing from Ron Howard, she auditioned and got the role. Howard approached Ricky Gervais for the role of Remy Jean, but he turned it down due to the fear of him ruining the film. Yeah, I don't see him in that role at all. That would have turned it into a joke.
It would have.
Although, I mean, it already is a joke.
Very self-aware of him to do that.
Yeah. The Louvre gave permission. Oh, no, sorry. As I mentioned this before, the film's teaser trailer was filmed in May 2005, a full year before the release, and even before filming officially began in June of 2005. The Louvre gave permission to film specific scenes on its premises. A replica of the Mona Lisa was used during filming, as the crew were not allowed to illuminate the original work with lighting. During the on-site filming at the Louvre, the Mona Lisa's chamber was used as a storage room. Anton, why don't you finish this?
Yeah. So Westminster Abbey denied the use of its premises, as did the Church of St. Sulpice. The Westminster Abbey scenes were instead filmed at Lincoln and Winchester cathedrals, which both belong to the Church of England. Westminster Abbey falls under the direct jurisdiction of both belonging to the Church of England. Westminster Abbey falls under the direct jurisdiction of the monarch, while St. Sulpice is a Roman Catholic institution. Because they could not film at the St. Sulpice, the entire thing had to be digitally recreated by post-production company Rainmaker UK. Filming also took place elsewhere in the United Kingdom. Locations include the King's College London campus, Fairfield Hills in Croydon, the Temple Church in London, Burghley House in Lincolnshire, and Roslin Chapel and Roslin Castle in Midlothian, Scotland, all make an appearance at the final part of the film. Most of the interior scenes were shot at Pinewood Studios, including the opening sequence in the Louvre, where the museum was meticulously recreated on the 007 stage. Hans Zimmer replaced James Horner as composer, who was busy scoring The New World for Terrence Malick. This received a Rotten Tomato score of 26%, which is particularly poor for a blockbuster like this. And the Catholic Church's protests of this movie certainly played a role. I like to imagine they gave this a 25% score. The movie was censored and even outright banned in multiple countries. And that is our production history for the Da Vinci Code.
Let's talk why wasn't it better. I think for the first reason we should start with the source material, and this is going to inevitably lead into what are some of the worst plot holes I've ever seen in a film. Now, I don't know if you want to give the film credit for this or not. It is a very faithful adaptation of the novel. So the plot holes themselves are technically not the fault of the film, but you could blame it on the novel, I guess. But we're reviewing the film today, so we're going to have to talk about the film. I was thinking about this because a lot of times when a very popular book is adapted into a film, one of the most common criticisms that you will hear if people didn't like it is like, well, it wasn't as good as the book. It wasn't like the book. They changed too much from the book. And this is a very good example of, I think, the opposite, where just because something is a faithful adaptation of the source material doesn't make it good. Things can be considered good and not be a good adaptation like this. Like, would you both of you agree? Like, this is a good adaptation of the novel, The Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, it's a very faithful adaptation of the book.
Yeah, but then like there's things that can work in a book, but that can't work on a movie or on a screen, like fake security cameras. You know, that could possibly work in a book, not in a movie.
No, that becomes a massive plot hole.
Yeah.
I think the point I'm trying to make here is that when your source material is a crock of shit and is complete nonsense, it's going to make adapting it difficult. But of course, who cares? This is one of the biggest cash grabs of all time.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse watches were having a boom after this book.
They were. Hey, look, it's prominently featured in the book, Robert Langdon's vintage Mickey Mouse watch. And you're right about the boom, Anton, because for a long time they were really cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not.
You could have got them from Burger King, no more.
I mean, I can only speak for myself, but the novel was messing with stuff that I think is very tricky to mess with.
I mean, I think that is a statement that in general everyone should acknowledge. It's maybe now there's a bit more reverence, but at the same time there still will be outrage when you approach something very serious like religious matter and embellish it a bit. People will take notice and it will draw attention. And I feel like in this space, you just have to know that. Dan Brown absolutely knew that. I don't doubt it.
He knew that it was crap. A lot of the stuff from this novel was ripped off from a book published in the 1980s called Holy Blood, Holy Grail, which was written by a pair of con men. They tried to pass it off as real historical fact, and it was revealed that it wasn't, and they knew it, whatever. I have read the book a couple times. I'm talking about the Da Vinci Code. I don't think it's particularly well written.
No.
I will give it credit for being a real page turner. It's a very easy book to read. You can blow through it super easy.
Yeah, but this is also at a time where there really weren't enough edgelords publishing things like this or willing to publish things like this. So of course it's going to capture attention. Plus the readability.
The thing that fascinates me about this movie is for all the people that loved the book, it doesn't seem like anybody loves this movie, even though it's a very faithful adaptation of the book. You would just think based on that alone, it would have the same level of love towards it that the novel has, but it just doesn't seem to.
No, it really doesn't. And I have yet to meet someone that says that this is on their list of favorite films.
Both of you have watched a lot of movies.
Yes.
Have you seen a bigger offender of exposition dumps in a film than this one?
Yeah, Final Fantasy Spirits Within.
Damn,
Airplane.
you're right.
Airplane. That's it. A hospital. What is it? That's basically what they did the entire movie.
This entire movie.
The big building with sick people, but
Every single scene in this film is an exposition dump.
yeah.
Now, that works okay in a book, I think, because you can do a lot of exposition in a book without dialogue, just based on descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
I think you made this point earlier, Ben. Just because it worked well in a book, it does not translate well here on screen.
I can see why, if you're trying to translate like a very complex, or not even complex, but if you're trying to translate a multi-layered plot to a wider audience, and you're Ron Howard, it's, well, we could make this a bit smarter and kind of shoot it a bit more show not tell, but we have to sell this to everyone. Just have them say everything.
Yeah, but for me, you guys know that I do tech stuff. That's one of the things I truly hate when they're in any type of movie or TV show. We're like, yeah, we have to configure the dynamic host configuration protocol. And I'm like, you mean DHCP? Like, stop trying to over-explain things. Just keep it simple, stupid. That's all they need to do.
Well, they did not want to keep it simple, because where's the mystique in that?
I think you're right, though, Anton. They didn't have a choice because they chose to adapt the novel so faithfully, and the novel is nothing but an exposition jump. They were sort of backed into a corner where every scene is pretty much Tom Hanks. He might as well have been reading the book itself. Just like on screen, open the Da Vinci Code, just read pages from the book.
That
Just
probably
like
would have done better.
Professor Robert Langdon, he's the one professor on campus that always just has like a piece of paper taped on his wall. You hack.
Well, Anton, I kept this secret, but one of the reasons that I wanted Ben to be the guest on today's episode is I'm about 30% sure this is the film that inspired him to become a symbologist.
Oh, got it. Well, everyone has their heroes.
Absolutely. That's all
Robert
fake.
Langdon, a very nuanced character. He had claustrophobia because he fell in a well.
Yeah, he doesn't like elevators. Again, makes sense.
Right.
Also, he had a choice while he was in the Louvre. He could have took the stairs. You always have a choice.
Yeah.
But,
definitely not the coolest professor adventurer.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of the tism in there. I see it, recognizing the Fibonacci sequence on the floor. That's the Fibonacci sequence in reverse. Like, first off, wow,
Right.
Rain Man. That's amazing. But,
I like the not only just we don't get exposition we don't get just expository dialogue. We get the animations of the exposition of
Yes.
things like
The
ding,
highlighted
ding,
numbers.
Yeah.
ding.
that I'm a fan of. Because if
Yeah.
you're going to go with it, you might as well just go all out with it.
It's certainly ham-fisted, but I agree. It's like if you're going to go all in on the exposition, just go all in on it.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was waiting for the portrait of Leonardo da Vinci to turn into a Ninja Turtle, and it never happened.
I was really waiting for Blue's Clues to show up. Like, it's a clue.
Like everybody you thought might be evil ended up being evil too. It's like they didn't do a good job of explaining that though. But I'm sure we're going to cover that later.
Let's dig into this plot because it is truly idiotic.
Yeah.
So first of all, you could play a drinking game with this film. I don't think you'd make it through the film, but take a drink every time one of the characters says Saunier.
Yes.
So the clues / puzzle that Saunier leaves at his own murder site. At first I thought it was well done, and then I realized it's stupid. Why wouldn't he write everything down in one location? Like, what if Sophie and Langdon never found the other clues?
Yes.
That's it. It's a wrap.
What if Sophie or Langdon got murdered or unalived on their way to the Louvre? Like, then what? You know, he had all this time to carve a symbol in his chest. He could have found a piece of paper and wrote this stuff down. I'm just saying. And then put his blood in blue light with the Fibonacci sequence for the bank. Like,
Too
do you
much.
guys see what
Too
I'm saying? Like,
dramatic.
that was like over the top. He knew he was getting unalived at that day.
Over the top, but for no reason, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of examples in literature where something feels otherworldly, but then it actually is just, oh, like these were the circumstances, and it just seems more extreme. But this is one of those examples where, just kind of reflective of the novel, it's just sensational, but it really just makes no sense, especially when you see it on screen.
Yeah. Like, where were all of the cameras this entire time?
Well, they're fake.
Oh, yeah, but like, this is the Louvre. We're supposed to have like security. The Mona Lisa's there, but someone can get unalived in like a place and it's okay. Come
Well,
on.
that's the ridiculous thing. Is like, how did Silas? Is that the monk's name? The
Yeah.
ghost. How did he get
Paul
in?
Bettany.
How did he get out? If the museum was, it's never explained. But this might be the biggest plot hole of the film, although this is debatable. So deep into the second half, Bezu Foch, which is Jean Reno's character, right, the police captain, inspector, whatever, he reveals that the reason he believes Langdon killed all the people is because the bishop, whose name is Oringarosa, which is an idiotic name. I'll come back to that later. Just the name.
Oringarosa.
Yeah, it's awful. It's so stupid. T Bing is another stupid name. Okay, so Bezu Foch, he says that Bishop Oringarosa told him that Langdon came to him in confession over the murders, right? Okay, so presumably, this is never actually explained, but we can assume that T Bing, posing as the teacher, right? Another stupid name. He tells Oringarosa to frame Langdon, right? Why? What possible motivation does T Bing have for framing Langdon?
None.
There is none.
They don't even attempt to explain it.
It's like, why? Why did you have to send Jarvis to kill him? Doesn't matter.
The reason why Oringarosa had to kind of throw him under the table was because otherwise, how was he going to capture Spider-Man?
Right.
Absolutely true. The Marvel Universe and this movie are really, really linked together.
Yeah, I had the power of the sun.
If you're T-Bing, how does Langdon being framed help you with anything?
It doesn't.
No, I think like we talked about this, like we texted about this. It's supposed to feel like he knows that it's going to be a grand adventure if he frames him. That's how it's presented. But that's not, it makes no sense.
Or maybe just needed a villain.
It's laughable. It's idiotic. It makes no sense. Actually, I don't even think that's the biggest plot hole. You talked about the security cameras. The fact that they even bring it up, like, just makes the plot hole even more egregious.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the real meat of it, though. So Sophie being a descendant of Mary Magdalene, how would that prove that Jesus was human?
It doesn't.
Mary could have had children with anyone.
Yeah. There was no Mari at the time, so we wouldn't even know if that was actually...
They were trying to say all of those other little miracles that she was able to do, right? Shows kind of the divine connection.
Oh, when she healed Robert from while they were in the back of the van and stuff. Yeah. But...
all the little, like...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You could kind of say she gave him a hand job, like, in a way.
In a way, yes.
In a way, of sorts. I'm just reading my notes and just shaking my head. So they don't have Jesus's DNA, right? Obviously. They only have what they think the DNA is Mary Magdalene. How do they know that's even Mary Magdalene in the tomb? It's just some person's remains. All it would prove is that she's distantly related to some remains in a tomb. So that doesn't work.
No, inside the tomb, when you open it up, it says, "Hi, I'm actually Mary Magdalene."
It's a name tag.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Mary.
Yeah. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I don't know.
This is not just a plot hole. This is like your plot's made of cotton candy and it's raining.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm saying around like any conspiracy, especially religious conspiracy. Like people eat this up, especially like whether it's like really nowadays, it's really like bad shows on the History Channel, but also like deep levels of conspiracy theories on YouTube. This is what this reminds me of. And people really do enjoy that kind of subject matter. So I'm not surprised this was especially as exciting as it was because it was suddenly like under the public eye. But It really is shoddy.
Do you think that this actually paved the way for conspiracy theorists on YouTube?
It probably inspired a generation.
I think this and
YouTube.
9/11 for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah.
This and the anime Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Well, just in case you're listening to this episode and maybe you did believe this, we're going to provide some counterpoints because I was very curious about this. So Sophie is descended from someone who lived 2,000 years ago, right? Most of us are. That's about 70 to 80 generations. I am far from being a geneticist, but so shouldn't there be millions of descendants of Mary Magdalene?
Absolutely.
There would be either millions of descendants or none, not one.
Or they might have genetic defects if they kept doing the inbred thing that the kings and queens did back in London times.
Well, that's the thing. Her DNA after that many generations would be pretty different than Mary's.
Yeah.
Unless she was unless she was a direct descendant of each person unbroken in the line.
Yeah, it would not be I wonder if they were just trying to say like loosely. I mean, no, they said that she was the only
the only one.
Yeah, and like that's just not how that works. I mean,
almost everyone alive today is related to people that lived 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, look what Genghis Khan did.
Right, right.
Thomas Jefferson. I don't know,
TJ.
I'm
related to Thomas motherfucking Jefferson.
There's a really funny SNL bit about that. Like literally, like 9 out of the 10 people like, and I found out I was related to Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah. So that theory is like gone.
It's idiotic.
Yeah.
And then getting into more of it, right? So the idea that Mary and her daughter had to go into hiding, that doesn't make sense either. Because remember Teabing says that like, well, the Catholic Church was just trying to hunt them down. In the decades after the death and resurrection of Jesus, right? So this would have been the time of the apostles, what you would refer to that as, right? Very early history of the church. The church had no power or no infrastructure. Christianity at that point would have been small groups of mostly poor people gathering in semi-secret. The idea of like the all-powerful, all-knowing Catholic Church that we know today, that would not even come together for several hundred years. So that claim doesn't make sense. Just for some quick history, Constantine and the Edict of Milan didn't happen until 315 AD. The Council of Nicaea, which Teabing talks about at length in this film, that was about a decade after that. There was no debate about Christ's divinity at Nicaea. The papacy did not even happen until 476 AD. I'm talking about the first true concept of what you think of the Pope is. Yes, I understand Peter is considered the first Pope, but Anton, you probably know this better than I because you are a true Catholic. But the concept of the papacy did not really begin until 476 AD.
Yeah, but what is it? It's like looking at the pre-Super Bowl era. Those stats still matter. So Peter's that first Pope.
Like the Cleveland Browns did win championships, right?
Right. But some people look at only the post-Super Bowl stats.
It's the same thing with the Premier League. The Premier League always shows stats of like top scorers, but they just pretend that everything before 1992 didn't exist. I'm just shaking my head. The novel frames it that the revelation of Jesus' marriage is proof of his humanity, but Christianity does not deny that Jesus was human.
Yeah.
Not a thing. His humanity and divinity coexist. I noticed the story makes no attempt to account for the resurrection.
It doesn't. Yeah.
No. I was waiting for Tom Hanks to be like, well, what about that?
Yeah. He came back and he took Mary Magdalene to France to give birth to her child. Like that would have kind of made sense in the movie. But
there were probably much bigger implications of just everything in general that's not really being acknowledged.
Yeah. Because what I got out of that was they're just saying Jesus was a bad dad and he abandoned his kid. Like, that's what they're basically saying. And I don't believe that would be true. So make it make sense.
So this movie's kind of a fictitious holy war, right? We have the church on one side and then this pagan cult called the Priory of Sion on the other side, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the other confusing thing is, just watching this the other night, Aringarosa is not really working on behalf of the Catholic Church. It's like this, what do they call it? Like a shadow council?
Yes.
The Opus Dei.
Opus Dei.
Right.
Yes.
But even that, it's like, it's not really the Catholic Church. It's just part of it. It's a secret. It's just, it's confusing.
I'm sure there's stuff like that going on right now, allegedly.
Well, I understand why the church wants to destroy the evidence of what this story purports to be the Holy Grail, right? Like, I get that part. I am much less clear about the Priory of Sion and the motivations in this story. So they want to protect the secret, but also not tell anyone.
Yeah, that's how you protect it. You don't tell anybody.
Because then everyone's just gonna ask questions.
But
Mhm.
what do they want to do with the secret? Just preserve it?
Just be creeps.
They want to preserve it for the next sequel.
The next orgy?
Yeah, the
It's
next
just
orgy.
no clear intention. And another really good example of I never asked that question as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
like reading the book, like, whoa, you just get presented like, again, a secret society and they're hiding something, but why? We don't even ask why. The book doesn't even ask why.
Mm-hmm.
No,
But,
and that's why I think both the book and the movie suck. Is the best, well, especially the best movies, in my opinion, only get better the more times you watch them. And
Yeah.
this movie falls apart even on the second watch.
Because like for Face Tattoo or whatever her name is, I feel even revealing her lineage, there's no real implication of like what does that do for humanity if people find out. Not
Yeah.
like really like nothing.
It might just make her life a little bit more difficult.
Like she's just gonna get booked on like
Yeah.
all the talk shows, but
Ricky Lake was popular at the time. She'll be on there. Oprah. Yeah.
but again, like she doesn't truly like. There's a slight indication of divine power, but not enough to kind of show that it would be like it would make more sense to me if it was, oh, there's an organization that wants to use her as like a political figurehead and in doing so kind of move things towards their way, like either economically or politically. And that makes a bit more, even that, like while just like literally thought of in a minute, makes more sense than just trying to hide something for no reason.
I'm glad you brought that up, Anton, because the film could have done something like that at the end when all of the Priory of Sion members show up at Rosalind Chapel. There's like, how many of them show up? Like 50, would you say? There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. They're like,
I
I'm
have
here
a
for the
couple
gangbang.
questions. Number one, first and foremost, did they all participate in the orgies?
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's why they all showed up. They knew what was happening.
That's why they joined.
Do you think
It's
that's why they
gangbang.
were there? That's they thought the next one would be there.
I think it was a really interesting coincidence. It was just the timing was so perfect that, oh, she's here too. Welcome in. Well, other thing was Professor Langdon left out of the gangbangs, or the orgies, I should say.
I don't think he
no, he would need to be initiated before
he did not fit the vibe check.
Right. It would have been like him being. Think about like Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut, where he just wanders into the mansion. Like they're not.
Yeah.
They knew he didn't belong.
Yeah.
The other
He helped
question
with that part.
I had about all those people, and this is what you were alluding to, Anton. It's like that was the film's opportunity to do something more interesting. Like to your point, it's like does the Priory have plans for her? Because we hear earlier in the film from Professor Teabag that they were going to reveal the secret at the turn of the millennium when quote unquote humanity was ready.
Mm-hmm. And it never
then
happened.
they don't do it, and it's never explained why they didn't do it. It's never explained what that means. Like when humanity is ready, like what does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, because with the internet, humanity will never be ready. 4chan has proved that.
Yes.
This is absolute tripe. It's baloney. It's nonsense. Also, did you notice it's towards the beginning, they don't even know the location of the Holy Grail. They're just protecting like the beginning of the trail of clues. So like they're protecting something they don't even know where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is,
and I think like this is we'll talk about the kind of the tone of the film later, but this is where when you see the reveal, or when you see like Tom Hanks like look at her and be like, you're the bloodline, like it's just so melodramatic.
Yeah.
And there's no moment to kind of like take away from how heavy they're trying to make each scene. It's too much for something that doesn't really have much to it.
You're completely right. It's pure melodrama with some really cheesy dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
You say you hate history. Nobody hates history. They hate their own histories.
So,
you get some crap like a cryptex. They're used to keep secrets. It's like Da Vinci's design. You write the information on a papyrus scroll, and then which is rolled and like just oh my gosh. You believe in God? Your God doesn't forgive murderers. He burns them.
How did the scroll just not, accidentally break. You're riding on horseback for years and years and years. I'm sure you hit a horse pothole. Let's just say, I don't know what they're called, a hole maybe. It
They
probably like damaged it.
they built glass differently then.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was. What's it called? The Keystone. Give me the Keystone.
yeah.
Where is the Keystone?
It's over at Kappa Sai's house.
Potentially the creepiest line in the film, which really is made much more creepy by the flashbacks to the Eyes Wide Shut orgies, is when Langdon asked Sophie, "What if Saunier had started to groom you for the Priory?"
Yes,
Gross.
Awful, just so
Gross.
disgusting.
I would definitely say second creepier when they're all there at the church and that old lady was talking and saying, "I'm your grandmother." Was she a part of those grooming sessions as well?
Had to be. Did she explain why she didn't know her at all her whole life?
No, she
Did
didn't even have a name in the
No.
credits. Her name in the credits. Her name is Elderly Lady.
I think the
Cutscenes,
worst the worst part of exposition is the T-Bing living so close to the events of the film. It's like he just lives right near Paris in this chateau.
Yeah, it also makes you think. You could walk everywhere and look for things your entire life, but some things are directly under your feet,
Yeah, just as they say, the next orgy's just right around the corner.
right around the corner. So weird. Oh gosh.
I was
It
waiting
was-
for T-Bing to ask her about that. You know, when they show up at his house, like, really? Did he take you to any orgies?
They also did that weird flashback, like the old 2000s flashback for that kind of grainy
Yeah, the Zapruder film footage.
Zapruder film footage. Yes.
Yeah, they did the same footage for like the flashbacks to 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. That is a very 2000 style of filmmaking. You'd never see that now.
Not yet. We're gonna bring it back.
Next reason why I wasn't better. Let's talk about Tom Hanks in the cast.
Tommy boy.
Not one of his better roles. There's been a lot of
Ugh.
jokes about his hair.
Mhm.
Nobody seems to really like him in this.
Yeah. And Tom Hanks is just lovable for like
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, I don't think he gives a bad performance. I think it's just very unmemorable. There's nothing special about it. Like, it's not that he didn't sell any of the scenes. Like, he was just delivering the bad dialogue that he had to deliver.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's just a very boring Tom Hanks role. It's a waste of his talents, really.
But not
Yeah.
a waste of his bank because he made a lot of money off of this.
He did.
Mm.
I
Mike
think I
Tyson
would have
and Dick
preferred
Paul.
Bill Paxton. I really do.
No,
Just
Russell
an-
Crowe. Russell Crowe all the way.
Australian accent Russell Crowe, or like him doing an
No,
American accent?
no. Australian access, Russell Crowe. Yeah.
We
I'm
want
a
a proof of
symbologist.
life that we're not paying.
Ooh, he's a symbologist.
Sophie, what if he was grooming you for the Priory?
Yes. We probably would have been a little bit better.
My name is Professor Robert Langdon, symbologist,
He's afraid of wells.
and elevators, and planes, and trucks.
And being enclosed in any small spaces
But I have a Mickey Mouse watch.
makes me human.
And he loves Sonic the Hedgehog.
No, that's actually Poseidon's Triton.
Superman, I'm your father. I thought Paul Bettany gave the best performance.
Yeah.
Just the very conflicted, rage-fueled monk.
His
Yeah.
flashbacks were the funniest.
Yes.
Felt bad for that guy.
Completely unnecessary for the film. And if you accidentally watch the extended edition of the film, like Ben and I did, Anton, I don't know if you saw any of this, but he has a very extended sequence of flashbacks involving an earthquake that frees him from jail.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see
That's
that?
good. Did not see that. That's good. Good for him.
Yeah. You didn't miss it.
You know what? I think he gives the best performance in the film, and yet it still slightly comes across as parody.
Yeah.
I still remember reading about the outrage from albino communities about his character. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you upset about? Like,
We could have
He's
hired an
cle-
albino
he-
person.
he's clearly the worst comic book character ever made.
His mouth is open for a lot of the movie. He's
Yeah.
like Mark Wahlberg in Planet of the Apes. Did you laugh when he gets shot at the end? Like a little bit?
Definitely giggled.
When he accidentally shoots Bishop a ring around the posy?
I thought that was hilarious.
One thing I noticed, I think it's a continuity problem, is Aringarosa is lying in like this gigantic pool of blood, and then he seems to survive the wound when he gets taken
Yeah.
away in the ambulance. Like he's in this like, giant pool of blood.
Nope. This is what it
Should
is.
have died.
Got it.
Yeah.
Inside of those folders that he had was actually the blood of Jesus. and that's how they were going to
Oh,
prove it.
okay. I should have known that.
Yeah, I
In his
mean,
little satchel.
yeah,
Well, this film does something that I think it annoys me more than it probably should. It's picking nits, but something I notice in a lot of movies is movies seem to treat shoulder gunshot wounds as like not that big of a deal. He gets shot basically between his shoulder and his chest,
that's pretty bad.
and I don't know if most people would survive that.
No, especially not him. He's overweight. Probably doesn't eat right. Probably doesn't exercise unless
No,
you have a
Alfred
really good
Molina
fitness
built
plan.
different though.
Yeah.
We like Alfred Molina on this podcast, right, Anton?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I don't
No,
think he's good here.
definitely good
But...
dude.
I mean, I joke a lot, but I actually loved him as Doc Ock.
Oh, I loved him as Doc Ock
Mhm.
too. You like him here?
No,
Audrey Tattoo, she does a good job of looking startled.
very forgettable though.
Very forgettable. Well, you guys have seen the movie poster, I assume. It's a horrible
Mhm.
poster. It's just
Yeah.
Tom Hanks and Audrey Tattoo looking confused in different directions. Well, the unhighlighted of the show for me is Ian McKellen, who I think is a great actor. I'm sure we all think that. And he obviously is excellent at playing an antagonist like he does as Magneto, where he's brilliant. Doesn't work for me here.
But the one thing that does track is that Ian McKellen loves himself an orgy.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the cut scenes, which I'm just making this up, but I'm just going to assume, is he tried to attend one of their orgies and it wasn't handicap accessible, and that is what motivated him to
have his
do
villain
everything
arc.
in this film.
Yeah, that would make sense. They were all on the same team. They all wanted to know the same stuff.
I got to say, the crutches don't help. I'm not trying to sound mean,
Yeah.
but he's delivering some absurd dialogue and he's like hobbling around the whole time. It doesn't. I'm not even saying this to be funny. Like it does not help the movie and the storytelling.
Yeah, because they're just trying to completely play it straight, but it just does not come off well.
Yeah, maybe he just tried to pull a Kaiser Soze, and what if he can actually walk the entire time?
That would have been more interesting.
It would have been.
But
he's more cartoonish in this film than he is in Magneto, where he's playing a literal cartoon character. Now, I know, Anton, as you would probably like me to point out, Magneto is a much more nuanced and restrained character than most comic book villains.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone hasn't seen it, I would highly encourage them to check out the South Park parody episode of this. His character's name is Professor or Sir Lee Teabag.
Watched it last night. It's pretty hilarious.
Anton, your favorite actor, Jean Reno's in this. It's fine.
He always gets put. He for the most part always gets set in the same role in supporting roles. It's like some sort of police captain.
Like, I'm glad to see him because I like him.
Oh yeah, he doesn't get, but that's the thing. He doesn't get enough roles. When he does have a bigger role, it's like when he played the head therapist on that couples retreat film. Remember that one?
Yeah, that's a great role for him. He's really good in that.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about the cast? It's Jurgen Prochnow as the bank manager.
Did you guys see if Audrey Tattoo is doing anything nowadays?
I don't know or care.
She's not. Last time, all right, I did look some stuff up. She was in a movie called Jesus Rolls. And
is this the sequel?
No, the 2019 film. It looks like a lot of Hallmark movies.
Good for her. But kind of a fall off.
Yeah, she definitely had a really good run with that.
Yeah, I mean, she was really popular after Amelie, right?
Yeah.
That inspired a lot of people to move to big cities.
So she also is the catalyst for gentrification. Got it.
Yeah.
That's
all her fault.
That movie inspired many people to live bohemian lifestyles and live whimsical. I hate Amelie.
I haven't seen it, I don't think.
I joke. It's like it's cool when you're 17.
I understand. I mean, I thought this book was cool when I was like 15. I liked this book when it came out. I really did.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was fascinating because, again, I was younger, and I think I told you this before, Pat. It was in high school when my civics teacher said, "This movie's coming out. People are going crazy about it, but I bet you, like, in a decade, people are going to look back and be like, this was a poorly written book." And
your civics teacher was correct.
Yeah, she was very right.
You know how I mentioned that this film, they got the timing right with the release? They were able to successfully capitalize on the popularity of the novel. that's the mistake that they probably made making Inferno, because I think that came out in like 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and by that point,
No one really
these
cared.
books not only did people not care, like people were joking about these books by that point.
Yeah, by that point they had way better things to kind of take their conspiracy theory fill. They had InfoWars.
Right.
So
Yes,
Right.
InfoWars was a thing. Maybe InfoWars inspired this movie. I don't know.
yeah, chicken or the egg with that one.
Hmm.
You think we could get him as a podcast guest, Alex Jones?
Probably, and like I
Yeah.
kind of joke because that dude is super bankrupt.
Yeah,
Should
the
we
Onion.
do a revisit of Eyes Wide Shut with Alex Jones?
The Priory made the frogs gay.
Have you ever heard him talking about the politics of Phantom Menace?
Yes.
The Emperor Palpatine, he secretly funded the two different sides of the Galactic Civil War. Now, he came from the planet Naboo. He was also in cahoots with the Trade Federation.
I love that.
Oh.
Out of fish out of water in a. Actually, I don't know. Maybe Alex Jones really does love Star Wars, but there was
Probably,
recent. It was on ESPN. Stephen A. Smith got like a tweet where someone asked who would win 1v1, Tien Shin Han or Yamcha, and he like read the whole tweet.
He answered it
And-
seriously, right?
He was like. He was like, first of all, I'm a grown man. I don't know what this is. Which is so funny. It was his cop out to be like, I don't know the stats.
I gotta. It's like slightly related to that. I gotta send you this clip, Anton. You know who Mike Francesa is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you may have seen this, Ben. So someone called in and asked if it was either the Yankees or the Mets could go 162-0, and like Francesa like kind of had a meltdown, and it's amazing. Yeah, it's exactly. He's like, what are you talking about? Like, what? His face got all screwed up, and he's
So good.
Anyway, I wonder what Francesa thinks of this movie.
Yeah.
I think he's probably Catholic, so he's like, you gotta understand what they were doing. It was made by the devil. Let's talk about the production of this film, because if there's one thing you can praise about this film, the score is unbelievably awesome by Hans Zimmer. It is a wonderful score, really powerful music. It's probably one of his best scores.
Hans Zimmer never misses.
No, he doesn't. But some Hans Zimmer scores are better than others. This is up there for me.
I feel like I want to acknowledge it, but at the same time,
You hate this movie so much.
did it elevate the movie? Like, it didn't make it better for me.
Well, I'll push back on that a little bit. There's some scenes where like the score is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, but like then it just feels like an imbalance because the movie's so bad.
But the music drives the movie. Like, think about how many times you're just doing something that you don't really like, but you have a good playlist going. Like, I have a Saturday morning cleaning the house playlist. I don't want to clean the house, but it,
That's fair. I guess all I gotta say is it's unfortunate that this film has a better score because I don't want to acknowledge positive things about this film. So I will just say like it just causes a bit of an imbalance.
Kind of like with The Village, maybe.
Yeah, let's say that.
Where you could say like this film doesn't deserve the score.
That's true. I totally agree with that.
I think we were talking a little bit about the cinematography earlier. I think some of the scenes are actually filmed pretty well. Like this, the sequence where Langdon and Sophie escape from the Louvre, and there's a little bit of a car chase. Like that stuff is, I think, pretty well filmed. But the grainy black and white flashbacks,
very dated,
laughable.
Now, was that just because of the film that they used? Maybe they were just using some like non-digital film or something like that. I don't know about film that much.
I think it was very much of the era, but it's not something you'd want from a $125 million movie. It looks like something they'd film for like Ancient Aliens.
Yes.
Yeah.
When they were running around in the Louvre, the pursuit scenes, they look pretty cool. There was like really big angles. You could see all the like paintings on the wall. It was pretty clutch. I was like, that is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I will say the film does capture like the overall background landscapes really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Like you really do feel like immersed in whatever, whether in the Louvre or just kind of like running through kind of like the major landscapes that that they're listing in the film.
And
Even
look,
in Magneto's crazy room, like I felt immersed in there as well.
well, we can give Ron Howard a little bit of credit there. He knows how to shoot set pieces.
Yeah.
He does. I think biggest problem with the film though, 150 minutes, it is long and it is not well paced. I texted this to you, Anton, the other day because it shocked me to the point where I was like depressed. When they get on Teabag's private plane and they fly to England, just based on my memory of the film, I was like, oh, cool. We're in the final stretch here. This will be wrapped up soon. And I paused to get up and go to the bathroom, I think. And there was an hour left in the film. I was like, oh, no. How? I'm like, how, what is going to take an hour? And it took an hour.
It was painful to watch this in 2 parts. It was...
Yeah.
But it would have been more painful to do it in one sitting.
I did it in
Should
2
be
sittings.
like-
I had to.
like one of those. I don't know if guys had like the Ben-Hur VHS tapes and how it came into 2 parts. That's what this movie should have been. Just put it in 2 parts.
I mean, there's just chunks of the movie that are really slow and boring. Like after they escape from the Louvre, and there's a little bit of you could call it a car chase if you want. It's being polite.
Mm-hmm.
They just hang out in the city park for a bit. Then they go to the bank. Then they go to Teabing's chateau. Like just yawn. It's so slow.
She was like, "Hey, I'm gonna pay this guy doing meth in the park $50 so he can leave." I'm sorry, what? You're just okay with that? Like,
well, actually, the film is implying that she healed him with her Jesus powers.
See, you know what?
There's
That
deeper
makes
meanings there.
Yeah.
Ben.
Yeah, but she still stole somebody's phone like a jerk on a bus.
She did do that. You're right. Anton, you were talking about the tone of this film earlier and how it is problematic. They are presenting everything to us as like high art concept, super serious. It doesn't work at all. It comes across as cheesy. You said melodrama, right?
Yeah, just very melodramatic, very soap operatic. Just not... when you treat it so heavy, just no tone shift at all, and just nothing to really lighten it up. It's just suffocating.
I don't think this was ever supposed to hold up.
They just knew.
It's not a film that lends itself to repeated viewings. The whole thing hinges on the mystery. And once you know the mystery and you actually think about it, you're like, wait a minute, none of this makes sense. It's all stupid. So if you watch it more and more, it's only going to get dumber. It's kind of like if you watch, what's a movie we reviewed that was similar like that? Like, Anton, both of us like Skyfall, right? We like that movie. We like it in spite of the plot holes. But the more you watch Skyfall, you're like, wow, nothing about this plot holds up. But it has a light enough tone throughout most of it and good enough performances that you can overlook it. This does not have any of those things to fall back on.
Right? Yeah, like, is there any reason why the Aston Martin had a machine gun on it?
No, it doesn't make sense.
No, but like I loved it.
It was cool.
I wrote down this movie, The Da Vinci Code. This would just be direct to streaming now. I don't even think this would get a theater release in 2025.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's all within the context. It fit that this was such a best-selling book, and it was still high on that momentum, and there wasn't anything in the same category, because this probably does fit in like historical conspiracy theory fiction, which I can't think of many other works that fit in that same category that was able to kind of attract that same attention from the general audience. So they had to really, strike while the iron was hot.
I think the only other one that I think has really withstood the test of time is National Treasure. People still really love those 2 movies.
But it's and the night and day with how those films are presented, right?
Well, completely. That's fun, lighthearted, popcorn entertainment. Don't take it too seriously, and that's why we love it. Really fun performances from Nicolas Cage and the rest of the cast. They just knew to have fun with it.
Yeah, and make it feel more like an adventure, less like an art house film.
Right, which is what this film was very, very foolishly trying to do. I have nothing else to say about this film.
All I gotta say is the Dan Brown and the filmmakers are lucky that Christians don't have fatwas.
Good point.
Because, Satanic Verses in its heyday.
He got stabbed over that recently.
What was the author's name?
Salman Rushdie.
Salman Rushdie, that's right.
Yeah, got stabbed a couple years ago on stage.
Went through the ringer for that, which I now to this day I don't think like your average person remembers the Satanic Verses.
No, probably not.
But
Although, I mean, he is certainly well known for his the rest of his works because he's written some really great stuff.
Right.
Midnight's Children is a great novel. But yeah, anyway.
But Dan Brown, get out of here.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing. I'm sure he made a pile of money from this. Can we wrap this up?
Let's do it.
Ben, as the guest, would you like to go first?
Okay, this movie is getting a D. Because, one, it was slow. It should have been a lot faster. For 2.5 hours, it seemed like a lecture instead of, an interesting movie about what it could be. The problem solving in this was a little bit weird. They could have done a little bit better with that. Silas is just as good in this movie, or the character of Silas is just as good in this movie as Kevin Hart's version in Epic Movie. It's just terrible. And if you haven't seen that movie, go watch it. It's just as bad. It's called the Da Vinci Code, but it's the Da Vinci Chore. And that's why I'm saying this is like a D. It's trash.
Higher than I thought you'd
Yeah.
rate it.
Yeah. It's a D because Ron Howard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anton, what do you think?
It's an F.
Mm.
I almost don't want to go. I almost don't want to say more, but no, it's just there are too many films that we cover that I can respect the the directorial vision, the story writing, or maybe it was just a faithful adaptation. This was a faithful adaptation. Ron Howard's a great director, but this movie is not entertaining for me whatsoever. And that's a huge factor in terms of being able to revisit a film. There's nothing about it that kind of stands the test of time of like where this fits in movie history. Film compared to its contemporaries, there are much better films that are much smarter films and work off of much better screenplays and writing. Yeah, we can acknowledge that the score is exceptional from Hans Zimmer, but if anything, it stands out of place in comparison to this film that just is not enjoyable for me. And I feel like this deserves all the credit for being able to make as much money as it did, but I do think it's just more of a product of its time with being able to capitalize on lack of a subject matter that now people are getting their fills on probably much more entertaining YouTube videos. So it's just not a fun movie for me. I put this at an F.
I really like Hans Zimmer's score. I think it's magnificent. I think it is kind of stylish in some parts. It is a well-made movie in some respects. I like how it's filmed, except for the flashbacks. It just loses a lot on repeated viewings because the whole thing hinges on the viewer not knowing how dumb the mystery is, and the plot is just such a bunch of baloney. But I guess you could just blame that on the novel, right? Like they were faithfully adapting the novel, and it was crap. It's a dud. Tom Hanks, it's a by-the-numbers, unmemorable performance. Nobody really impressed me in the cast except for Paul Bettany. It is a memorable performance from Paul Bettany. A little silly and over-the-top in parts, but he was giving it his all. Ian McKellen really disappointed me as the villain, and it's long and not paced well. It's really tough to recommend this if you've never seen it. As a time capsule movie, it's interesting because of just how much of a phenomenon the book and this adaptation were. I think if you like ham-fisted exposition, you'll love this movie. If you need a film's plot spoon-fed to you, which some people do, not everyone watches movies the way we do. If you want something that's similar or far more fun and entertaining, I would just watch National Treasure. There's no real reason to watch the Da Vinci Code 20 years later. I never loved this to begin with. Rewatching it now, I was just surprised at how much of a stinker it is. There's nothing particularly offensive in it to me. I just think it's stupid. It's gilded, pulpy trash. I'm going to split the difference with the two of you, and it's a D-. It's a horrible movie, don't get me wrong.
So is there a chance you'd watch this again?
No. And I know that sort of goes along the lines with the ratings that we give films, Anton, but I'm trying to think, what is the highest ranked film I have given on this podcast that I would never watch again? Probably Alien Romulus. I never want to see that film again, and I gave that a C.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Just because I don't think it was a horrible movie. I just
It's fair.
Don't ever want to see it again. It did nothing for me. On the right day, Anton, you could talk me into an F for the Da Vinci Code. I've seen a lot worse than this. A lot worse.
Yeah, this film This film committed the ultimate sin beyond heresy. It wasted my time.
It's mostly a waste of time. I'll say that.
Yeah. The plot
Well,
of
that's
Black
it.
Dynamite was a lot better than this.
You what?
The plot of the Black Dynamite was a lot better than this.
Dynamite.
Yes.
Well, that's it for the Da Vinci Code. Ben, always a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Always a pleasure, Ben.
Thank you, guys.
Next week, Anton, what do we have? Oh, well, listeners can expect a surprise weekend release for Dragon Ball Evolution.
Woo!
Which is even worse than this. And then next week's episode is going to be a Star Trek movie, The Voyage Home, the fourth one. You big Star Trek fan, Ben?
My sister is.
Okay,
She
so
makes me
no.
watch a lot of them. Yeah.
So you aren't personally.
I'm not personally, but I've had to watch them a lot.
Okay, fair enough. Well, maybe we'll have you on for one someday. But until then, Anton, you have any parting words?
Well, just again, Ben, thank you so much, and we're excited for whenever we have you back on.
Thank you. If you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please give us a follow and a 5-star review. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel as well. As always, you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And for those who would like to support us directly, we have a Patreon. Links are in the description. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on Why Wasn't It Better?